Welcome to Hustle System. My name is Mikhail, and I help people master their mindset, build a better business, and help you live your life on your terms. In this video, we're going to talk about what entrepreneurship actually feels like. But before we dig in, please subscribe to the channel if you have not yet subscribed. And if you have subscribed but have not clicked the notification bell, please click that little bell so you can be notified when I upload more awesome videos. And let's dig right on in. Okay, this is going to be a very personal video because what I'm seeing in society right now is this entrepreneurship trend, okay? And you've got a lot of young kids, a lot of even older individuals that are jumping in. They're jumping into the lake and they're thinking it's gonna be awesome because it's perpetuated on social media that entrepreneurship is the thing to do and you should do it. And what I'm seeing again and again and again is people coming to me and saying, hey, I thought I'd be able to start this business and do it, and I'm losing my mind. I'm making no money. I don't understand what I'm doing. Help. And so the way I view it is kind of like we have this big ship and people are kind of safe on the ship, but now we crash into an iceberg and people are kind of in the waters of entrepreneurship. And some of them jumped in there voluntarily thinking it'd be the cool thing. That's why I had to make this video on what entrepreneurship actually feels like and some things that you're going to want to do if you have not yet become an entrepreneur, or if you are in the process of becoming an entrepreneur, that I feel are critical and are not talked about as frequently as really they should be, because it's all about the hustle. It's all about, just blaze through it, but nobody really talks about these more practical things and the things that, for example, I had in place and learned and mastered to a very high degree before I kind of went on my journey. And those are the things that then give you a competitive advantage and allow you to actually have a business and actually be an entrepreneur instead of just feeling like you're drowning all the time. And that analogy is honestly the best analogy that I can come up with. In the beginning, what entrepreneurship feels like is getting thrown into that spot in the ocean where there's really big waves crashing. You guys know that spot, right? It's right off the beach. You walk in and you've got this nice smooth roll of the water up to your ankles, and then you go in a little deeper, and then you get hit with the rolling wave, and then there's a spot that you hit where like the waves crash right there, and most people just kind of they dive underneath or they go over, whatever their little strategy is, and then they try and get past that spot, right, so they can kind of wade out in the water. But entrepreneurship is kind of like getting stuck in that area for an unlimited amount of time, what it feels like. So really imagine this: you start your business. You put everything into it, and then it doesn't work. And now you're in debt. Now you're, let's say, $10,000 in debt, and you're trying to create value in the marketplace, but you're in debt. And you don't really understand the core principles of how business works because you just did it because you're like, oh, okay, like maybe it's like drop shipping is the thing or digital products is the thing, right? Whatever that thing is that is, quote, your dream, you went and you pursued it, but because you were missing the foundations, you're now finding yourself sliding and sliding and sliding and sliding. And it's not just a slide on resources like money, it's also an emotional drain. So recently, and we had this discussion a lot in the circles that I'm in, is a lot of tech entrepreneurs and a lot of kind of really high level people, is that it's very hard to admit the slip, right? Because you go in, you start, and you really want to crush it. You have the best intentions, but you're just missing the critical elements, and it's not clear what those elements are. I think with something like becoming a doctor, right, it's very clear. It's like, okay, you go to school for this amount of time and then you become a doctor, or a lawyer, you do this, you pass the bar, and then you're a lawyer. With entrepreneurship, there's no like certificate of entrepreneurship that's like, hey, you can be an entrepreneur now, like you have what you need. And so we're always trying to figure it out on our own. And that's why I mentioned that that's what entrepreneurship feels like, is you're in this spot in the waves and you're kind of like, you're waiting, and then you get hit with a wave, you get tumbled, you come up, you grasp for air, and instantly you get hit with another wave. And so it's like, boom, you come up, boom, and you're always trying to catch your breath. You're always trying to catch your breath. You're always trying to catch your breath. And there's just wave after wave after wave. And then the waves get bigger and bigger and bigger. And there gets a point where you're like, all you want to do is take a break, and all you want to do is hop out, and all you want to do is unplug and rest for just one moment. But you know that if you rest, everything might crumble. It's a really, really scary feeling. And I've been there before. I still find myself there sometimes despite having pretty good systems in place. And I know that leaders in almost any industry, in almost any business, no matter how small or how large, find themselves there. Even people I know that have huge companies find themselves in that position of going, I can't unplug because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that if I go and I pull myself out of the waves and I go and I sit on the beach to catch a breath, that everything is going to crumble. And that's the first feeling that you have when you become an entrepreneur, is this feeling that you can't catch your breath, right? Imagine having to swim laps back and forth in a pool, but you can never stop. You just have to keep swimming. You have to breath after breath after breath, flip, swim, breath after breath after breath, flip, swim, over and 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 over again. And it doesn't feel like there's any progress. And that's really scary because you're in these waves, you're trying to catch your breath, and the progress isn't there. It's not visible. It's not like you're making more money. It's a dead stop. And what happens there is the perception of progress isn't there because you're in it, right? You're not able to see it from the side. From the side, you can see, wow, this guy's swam 100 laps, 200 laps. But when you're in it, you can't tell. You can't tell what it is that you've done, that you've created. So that's the first one. And again, this is an important video because a lot of you guys want to become entrepreneurs. And that's something that you have to just prepare for. It doesn't matter how much funding you have. It doesn't matter how good your product is. None of that matters. There is no specific advantage that you're going to have that's going to prevent that from happening at some point in your career, unless you are just one of the luckiest of the lucky. Because I think it's a requirement. I think being able to get through those waves and get through those hits on the waves is a requirement, because what happens is there's a point where it's you get hit with the wave, you get tumbled, you pop back up, you catch your breath. You get hit, you get tumbled, you pop back up, you catch your breath. And you get into this flow of doing it where it starts to feel effortless. And that's the second part, is this flow state where you know that it's probably not sustainable, but you have to do it anyway. And so that's what that evolves into. It goes from you tumbling and scrambling from breath and feeling like you're going to drown at any minute to the state of flow that's not sustainable. Okay, that's usually the second phase. And I kind of call this crawling through barbed wire. So if you imagine you got pushed off a cliff and there was all this barbed wire on this cliff, well, now you have to climb back up. And so you have to climb up this cliff through the barbed wire. And that's the second emotion of what entrepreneurship feels like. It's kind of I hope you're a good climber, is kind of how that works, right? And there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of pain that comes with that, and it's very, very intense, right? Or that wave analogy where you're getting tumbled, you're popping back up, you've got the flow, you catch your breath, and you're rolling with it. But I don't want you to have this mistake that oh, I'm going to become an entrepreneur and then billions of dollars. I think that's the common perception. And it's kind of like going to the gym, right? A lot of people think I'm going to go to the gym one day and get ripped. No, it takes years upon years of hard work, of discipline, of being locked in, of understanding the skills you need to be able to actually be a successful entrepreneur, which I'll talk about in just a moment here. At least some of the most critical ones that I found made a big difference between me totally failing, just completely failing without any ability to get back up, or what it felt like no ability to get back up. And me actually having kind of a chance in the ring, right? It's like if you went to fight some MMA fighter, you would just get wrecked, right? So that's kind of what it is. Business is the most competitive sport there is. So it's no wonder these kids are going in, they're getting totally obliterated because you have seasoned professionals that are in that same space. So yeah, the second phase is you get tumbled, you go back up, you catch your breath, you know the wave's coming, so you get tumbled less, and you're able to conserve a little bit more energy, but it's still not fully sustainable. And then the third phase where that gets to, once you have the skills, what ends up happening is the waves just don't knock you down anymore. It hits you, but you don't get knocked down or tumbled. It just kind of hits you, and you're able to kind of just brush it off. And it takes some people months, some people years, some people decades to get to that point. But I just want you guys to really visualize what that feels like. That first moment when you get in and the waves are just knocking you down and you can't get enough air. Because there's gonna be a point, if you actually want to take this entrepreneurial journey, that you're gonna find yourself there. And I just want you to know that it's normal and it's okay. And it's all about taking deeper breaths. It's all about finding that state of Zen in your own psychology that allows you to enjoy the process. Rather than having it stress you out and worry you and drain you, have you actually get excited about it? Have you actually say, wow, no, not a lot of other people have the opportunity to do this. I actually have the opportunity to be able to take these risks. This is really powerful. This is really great. And yeah, so that's the feeling. Now let's talk about some practical skills here really quickly. And for those of you that are still in either a 9-to-5 or are just, up and coming, we're going to include some links down below this video for some resources that you guys can use, whether that's to escape, whatever paradigm you're in currently. We'll include a couple links to help you out with those specific paradigms. So if you're still watching this video, I recommend you check them out. They're very, very helpful, and I've put a lot of heart and soul into those things. So let's talk about some skills that made a big difference for me. And again, this is not the hot and sexy. This is not like, these are not hot and sexy skills, guys. The first is actually finance. The ability to read a balance sheet, the ability to do my own accounting, the ability to understand the cost of goods on your business, the profitability of your business, and the input, output, and scalability of those margins, right? When we came out the gate, we were break even pretty much right away. And most businesses can't say that. Most businesses, they either lose a bunch of money or they have to take on investors and then they burn through that money. I'm very much a cash flow guy. I don't like debt. And so the way that we thought about it was we want to create enough value in the marketplace to be able to sustain the infrastructure. And that is the very first place you start, is do we have the money to sustain the infrastructure, right? That's something that's not really talked about. Like, that's not the hoorah motivational speech of like, hey, you could do anything. But you know what? It's way more important. It's actually way more important. So understanding how the finance works, understanding how operations work, how corporate structures work, how basic legal documents are written, understanding human psychology and the desire for people to evolve and the ability to create win-wins in the marketplace with other people that can generate a lot of value. A lot of these things that, again, are not taught, they're not trained. The ability to lead a team, the ability to create a mission statement that gets people bought in to whatever your business is. Because the truth is, if you just have like a small little company and you're trying to get people into it, like, what's the mission? Like, what's the reason for somebody to give up their time in order to work with you? Is it just like a time for money thing? Because if that's it, then you're going to get time for money people. All right. I try and avoid time for money people because they're not there for the impact. And if you want to make an impact, if you're following this channel, I'm hoping you do want to make an impact. This is huge, right? The ability to lead, the ability to understand team dynamics, the ability to manage projects, the ability to set a deadline, reverse engineer the deadline, and hit all the points in sequence until you get to that deadline. It's a huge skill. And that requires a lot of other skills underneath it, right? Like the ability to write copy quickly, the ability to get beautiful designs out quickly, the ability to understand the positioning of the offer so that we don't have to continuously rethink it, so that we can position it right the first time or at least the second time if we get it wrong the first time, but not have too many iterations on it. Like how to structure back-end email sequences. All of these little things add up, right? And when you're good at them, you can do them quickly. But when you don't know that they even exist, like if you don't understand the financial principles and you're trying to make your business work and you don't understand the basics, like how are you supposed to win if you don't even know that that's what you're supposed to know? So that's why I had to create this video, because entrepreneurship, it is sexy. It's awesome, okay? When done properly, when executed, when done with heart, when done with passion, when in alignment, it has the opportunity to change the world. And so every single person watching, I want you to become an entrepreneur if it's in the cards. But what I don't want you to do is to jump in and get tumbled around and drown, because I see a lot of people have that happen. It almost happened to me. It was one of the most painful experiences I've ever experienced. And I look at it and you could argue that that's what made me, and you could argue that that's what you need to do. But you know what? It's a lot easier if you got a couple of those skills, like understand, basic finance, understand understand how much money you're going to need to make within 2-3 months of having your business. Understand what you're going to need to do to create that money, and hold yourself accountable to it. I think a big part of it is personal accountability and not being delusional and saying, wow, you know what? I'm not as good as I thought I was. Like, that's what happened with me in jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh, I'm going to for sure be awesome at jiu-jitsu. Went on the mat, just got wrecked. And that's instant feedback, right? You get, you're getting choked out. You're like, okay, all right, I'm not that good at this. So don't expect yourself to be good at entrepreneurship from the beginning. Master the skills, and check out some of the links that we have down below for resources, because those are really, really powerful, and done with heart, done with insight, and done with the intention to actually provide you with value that helps you. So that means a lot. Anyway, this has been a long video, I understand that, but it's also important for you guys to understand what entrepreneurship actually feels like. It's like being in an ocean, gasping for breath, day in, day out, sometimes for months, without a day off. And sometimes what you need to do is take a day off, but you can't afford to. And at some point you break through that, you find your flow state, and you know it's not sustainable, but you know that if you push through it for long enough, you'll get the skills to where the waves don't knock you down anymore. And then you have that one moment where you stand up and the wave hits you and you don't fall down. And that's magic. That's when you know you've got something, because that's when you can laugh at the waves and you can start to swim and you can start to be free and you can start to enjoy all those things that entrepreneurship is supposed to actually bring to your life and the lives of those you love most. And I love you. Thank you. If you're going through any sort of struggle with building your business, please comment below this video. If you like the video, please like it, obviously. But let us know, what is a struggle you're currently facing? It could be a leadership thing. It could be that the ads aren't working. It could be you don't know what to do. It could be you feel alone and isolated. That's why we create this channel. That's why we create this content, because the future is in your hands. The future of this entire planet is in the hands of those of us that have the courage to build the skills to make a difference. And I'm hoping that that's you. Okay. So thank you for taking time to watch this video. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you in the next one. Cheers.